a man wants to take me on a date moving forward, I now require a $100 refundable deposit on a date. Hear me out. Man makes reservation, wants to take me out. Wonderful, no problem. Gets there early. Okay, kudos for him. He calls me and says, I've made a mistake. Sir, what is the mistake that you've made? He says, I can't get in because I don't meet the dress code requirement. I say, well, what are you wearing? Because look at me. What? Okay, I'll see you in a moment. I'll be there in a couple minutes. He goes, yeah, I forgot they had a dress code. You made the reservation. You said you've been here before. And you put on a jogging suit for a first date, mind you. Do people not try to put their best foot forward anymore? And don't get me wrong. If you wanted something casual, sir, you should have said meet me at Starbucks or Chipotle. I love a good bow. I would have showed up in my leggings, the worn out ones, oversized t-shirt, and some New Balance. So a man will be paying a $100 deposit if you want to take me on a date. If you show up and you can do the little bitty things like get in the establishment for the reservation you made, your $100 will be fully refunded before we leave the establishment, okay? Let's be clear on this before y'all hop on Beyonce's internet and say I'm looking for money. No, I have my own coins. But it's not every day that a woman spends $170 for a beat like this. Can we get into it? She ate with that one. Okay, but
we just left the event.
So bad.
I think we were just saying that we think that we've actually hit rock bottom.
No, it was actually.
We think we've actually hit rock bottom, and I think we were either punked, catfished,
like
or
it felt like a sick joke. I was like literally thinking to myself, like, why am I like, how did I get here?
I know most of my audience are women, but man, if you're watching this, yeah, all I gotta say is I got a bit of inside information, you feel me? And so I gotta speak your lingo, but you're not gonna listen to me. Got some inside information, you feel me, yeah? I wanna say is better women, better options, man. Like the person that runs Juliana said that there's gonna be women there. He promised it's guaranteed. So if you're looking for a wife in 2026, I don't want to hear pim. You know where to be in it. You know where to be, like, you know what I mean?
I've been back on Hinge for almost 2 weeks now, and it's been nothing but crickets. Like, it's so dry, and I'm not even looking for anything serious. I'm quite frankly just looking for, like, maybe a fun bender and a drunk makeout sesh. Even that is impossible. One guy was talking to me about how maybe he shouldn't be on here because he's not over his ex. Then there was the second dude where we were just going back and forth with, and then he was like, oh, so when are you going to take it upon yourself? Want me to plan the date? Okay, princess. The cycle of re-downloading and deleting continues.
Life may be the most shambolic of shambles, but I meant it when I said that this year I am confident that I'm going to find my husband, okay? And I know, obviously, since I've said that, I've had one date planned and actually I was stood up for it. That's okay. It's fine. And I know, obviously, I've actually never really had success in my love life, you know? So what? Someone tried to scam me out of £25,000. So what? Someone else pretended they were in another country for a month. Do you know, also someone actually wrote me a poem, really beautifully written poem, honestly gorgeous, but it basically was a poem stating all of the things that were so wonderful about them and really awful about me. So that was really lovely. So although I don't have the best experience with dating, I am so confident that I'm going to find my person. And I have to be, because otherwise I'm never going to find them. If I go through like, oh, that's it, I'm just going to give up and everyone's the same, even though it does seem that way, that everyone seems to be the same, I'm most definitely not going to find my husband, am I? So I had a little knockback. However, I'm determined and I'm committed to this process. So last night I started speaking to someone new, and actually he's really lovely. He's really lovely. We were on the phone this morning at like 4 a.m. on the phone call. So that was really nice. Had a lovely chat. And he was very proactive and he sorted out a date already. So we have a date in the diary and I'm looking forward to it. Now, people in my last video were saying, Keela, just don't get too excited and also don't speak about it too much before it happens. If anyone knows me, I'm a very excitable person, okay? I feel like life is hard enough when there are things that happen out of our control that make life really sad and just really hard to navigate sometimes. So when there's little pockets of happiness that I can find, I always try and just be happy. And again, being serious, if I am going to commit to this process of finding my person, I actually cannot meet every new person regardless of what I've been through. And you know, I've shared a little bit about what I've been through and it's not great, but regardless to my experience with men, I cannot meet every guy thinking he's going to be the same way. I have to go in and be positive, you know? So actually, yes, I'm looking forward to going on a date. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to get stood up. I mean, it's not like that hasn't already happened to me this year, has it? Do you know what I mean? So I am going to look forward to it. I am going to be excited. And worst case scenario, things don't work out. So I'm hopeful. And as for speaking about things too soon, I'm a massive believer, and everyone who knows me knows that I'm very strong in my faith that whatever is meant for me will never ever pass me by. And genuinely, there has never been anything in my life that I've wanted or thought I was going to get that has been taken away from me or I haven't gotten that hasn't actually really served me. Do you know what I mean? Except for the Euro Millions. However, I'm sure there's a reason that I haven't won it. I don't know what that reason could possibly be, but I'm sure there's a good reason, okay? I mean, not being funny, look at me, almost being scammed out of, well, actually not almost, it was never going to happen, but someone trying to scam me out of £25,000. Imagine if I had Euro Millions money. Yeah, exactly. So maybe I'm being protected, who knows? Anyway, I digress. I am a very firm believer in that what is meant for me will always be mine. It will not pass me by. So if I want to speak about it, me speaking about it isn't something where it's like, you're speaking too soon and it's going to ruin it or it's going to, no, because if it's taken away from me, it was never mine. You cannot take something from me that doesn't belong to me, you know? If it's taken, it was never mine in the first place. So I will share this journey because I kind of ended up just falling into this where I got online one day a few weeks ago and was like, that's it, I've had enough of the dating scene. And then now we're here. So I actually want to bring you along on this journey of me finding love, okay? Okay, we're going to be in this together. And I get quite excited to share this. And hopefully, I know I'm not the only person out there who's also going through the treachery that is dating and meeting men and all of those things, or just meeting your partner, you know? So hopefully maybe sharing my story, if you're having a rough time, then you might be able to just laugh at me, you know, because I'm having a rough time as well. But hopefully, at some point this year, I'll be able to say that I found my person. And I feel really, really confident. I don't know why I'm filled with the confidence that this will happen. But it's not going to happen if I let this little knockback or the hundreds of knockbacks I've had before, not hundreds, but loads of knockbacks that I've had before. If I let those stop me, then I'm most definitely not going to find my person. So I have a higher chance if I at least try, you know? So it's a new week. We take lessons from the last time. That's the beauty of things going wrong sometimes. There's so much to learn from things not working out, you know? So who knows? Maybe this person who I'm speaking to now, maybe things will go well and he'll be my person. But it'd be a great start if he actually shows up to the date. So let's just see how that goes. But I will keep you posted, okay? Happy Monday.
I'm telling you, that singleness only hits you at night. When you ripping and running throughout the day, when you at work, when you know, whatever extracurricular activities, when you doing hobbies, when you at the gym, you don't even care about being single. That's not even on your mind. But when you pull up to the house at night and you get in that bed alone, that's when you be like, I really wish I could cuddle up with somebody, or I really wish I could tell somebody about my day. That's it. That's when the singleness hits you like, damn, I wish I had somebody. But throughout the day, you don't even be thinking about like, oh, I wish I had somebody to, you know, talk to on my lunch break, or, you know, like, I'm not even thinking about that stuff. But at night, when I lay my head down in that empty ass bed, oh yeah, that's when I be like, dang, yeah, I wish I had a little stink.
And this whole like being happy with being single and, you know, we don't need a man and all this other stuff in response to what's going on. I've been this way for years and I'm tired. I'm really tired, and I don't think that it's weak to crave human connection and to want to tear my walls down. And and to want to love. Like, that's like human connection is literally, it's innate in us. It is natural to us, and I don't feel like I should fault myself for that anymore. And I don't.
Shalom. Coming back again with another lesson. Before I begin this lesson, I'd like to begin by first giving all honor, glory, and praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. I'm going to give double honors to my elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who rule well, where I've learned this truth from. I want to say peace and salutations to you, Akim, you brothers out there laboring, pushing this word out in all truth and in sincerity, presenting your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable service. I want to say shalom to you, Akwaf, you Israelite sisters that may be listening. Also want to say shalom to you, Israelites that are scattered across the four corners of the earth. You may look like these other nations, but your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is a chosen seed line. Shalom. So I want to title this lesson today, they're getting ready to come knocking, something to that effect. If you're, I played some clips at the start of this lesson, just highlighting the state of things when it comes to dating and seeking new relationships. Before, women didn't really have issues finding someone new back in the days, because the men back in the days were hunters. They were hungry for the attention of these women, because the women were more feminine. They came with less attitude, whereas now men seem to have lost their appetites for these women of today, which is leaving a lot of modern women nervous at the state of affairs, right? So if you pay attention to a lot of these social media posts by the women, you can see the frustration from a lot of these women on the lack of success that they're getting or finding when they're searching or trying to attract a quote-unquote good man. It's almost like the Lord is putting a shield over the good men or the righteous men of today, to spare them from these modern women, right? The Lord's leaving these unruly women to choose from the 2/3 men that are left over. These Pookies and Ray Rays. The Lord is telling these righteous men, is protecting them from these crazy women, right? It says, in the scriptures that, prophecies, of these women coming, looking, seeking a man of the Lord. These are things that, it gives the impression that the Lord is preparing or getting ready, is by these posts that these women are making is happening, because these women are searching for men. They just can't find the good ones, right? So, it's almost like they're mourning the fact that they can't find good men, right? But these prophecies concerning the women was written to come to pass, right? So to begin this lesson, just get on with it. This is in the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 26, verse 23. It says, "A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth the Lord," right? So the words of the Lord are faithful and true. So whatever the Lord says, is faithful and true. So when we read that scripture in Ecclesiasticus 26 and verse 23, it says a wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man. That doesn't really need to be cleared up, right? So if you're a wicked woman, like you just do wicked stuff, you're going to be given to that Pookie and Ray Ray. That's it. That wicked man. It says, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth the Lord, right? So the godly woman, the one that's doing the things that the Lord is commanding, being sincere and genuine, the Lord's got you. The Lord's going to look after you, right? So if you are a single woman out there and you're in this truth and you're looking for a good man, right? And you're being sincere, you're learning, you're following after what the Lord has commanded of you, to the best of your ability. It says in the scriptures that the godly woman is given to him that feareth the Lord, right? So it's possible the Lord is just preserving you for a righteous man, right? So that thing is going to come, that relationship will blossom in its time, right? It'll be in the Lord's time, so you can't force the course of the river, you have to let things play out the way they play out, right? So to the other women that want to attract good men, but you come with that feminist mindset, expecting the world from a man, but offering absolutely nothing except attitude and masculine energy, you're already off to a bad start, you know. And just to give you a heads up, no man wants that, right? No man's interested in, you know, fighting with his woman, you know, from her masculine energy. You know what I mean? No man, you know, no man wants that. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be his peace, not his headache, right? It's almost like when you put in two magnets together, right? You put north to north or south to south, right? They push each other away, right? It's called, I think that term where they they repel each other, it's called magnetic repulsion, I believe is the term they use, right? So no man is going to choose to go where he's not needed, right? You ever hear like the passport bros speak? Go where go where you're appreciated, right? Go where they want you is basically their the terms that they use or whatever, right? But this is what feminine teaches. Feminism teaches independence. A woman doesn't need a man, right? Well, in actuality, you do. But, you know, feminism will teach, you know, you want a man, but you don't need a man. But, you know, that couldn't be further from the truth. You know, and there will be some women that disagree with that, but, you know, that's your opinion, right? You know, the Lord is it's almost like the Lord is putting a spirit on good men or righteous men who are waking up today to see what's a good man, a good woman, you know. So they're looking for these things, right? And you can read in the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, 10 on up, you know, what a good woman is, you know. And that's what a lot of these men are looking for. That's why you hear when they're speaking on these podcasts, certain things that they want, you know. And I'm not going to get into all that because, you know, you can look that up on your own. But like I mentioned, it's almost like the Lord is putting the spirit on these good men, these righteous men who are waking up to who they are, you know. And just to confirm this, when we read in the book of Hosea, chapter 1, verse 10, it says, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered." Right? So the Israelites are across the four corners of the earth. It may look like these other nations, but if our seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, yep, we are the children of Israel, right? So it says, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass," meaning it will happen, "that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people," right? And where was that place? The place was the land of our captivity, you know, mainly in the Americas, aka Babylon, but across the four corners of the earth. So you'll find some in Europe, you'll find some in Germany, you'll find some in, you know, or across the four corners of the earth, right? It says, "And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living power." And that's what we're seeing with all these Israelites waking up, right? So unfortunately for these unruly, proud, masculine women, good, righteous men need a lot more than what's currently being offered, you know. So this is why a lot of them are failing or not finding what they're looking for when they're looking for a man, right? Scriptures also say in the book of Isaiah, right? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 11, actually, so I'm going to go back, right? So it says, this is Isaiah 13 and 11. "And I will punish the world for their evil." We can all agree that the world is an evil place right now. "And the wicked for their iniquity." You know, and that includes men and women, right? So a lot of these women commit adultery and use men for what their resources, what they can get out of a man, and you know, vice versa. There's some bad men out there that are doing wickedness as well, and these are the 2/3, these Pookies and Ray Rays. But the men of the Lord trying their, you know, to their best of their ability to do everything according to what the scriptures has asked of them, to keep the commandments to the best of their ability, right? So Lord willing, well, the Lord will have mercy on them, right? So that's what we say, you know, Lord willing. It says, I'm going to read it from the top, verse 11 again. It says, "And I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible." You know, a lot of these modern day women have, you know, a lot of pride on them, especially if they're earning more money. You know, ain't no man can tell me nothing if I'm earning more than him. You know what I mean? So imagine a woman is with her man, which is her husband, and she saying, "Oh, you can't tell me nothing if you ain't earning enough." You know what I mean? Like that's really proud. That's a really proud person. You know what I mean? And the Lord ain't got time for that. So it says, "And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible." So, as we continue in verse 12, it says, "I will make a man," right? Highlight it. "I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir." So, the prophecy is there, man. The prophecy of the righteous men will be the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme. And when you look up the definition for the cream of the crop, it means the absolute best, the top tier quality, or the elite status of men, right? So these men that are waking up to this truth, that are following the scriptures, following the correct doctrine and all this other stuff, following the correct way, they're the creme de la creme. They're the top tier quality of men on the earth, right? So a lot of modern women will argue that there are no good men, right? But if you look at these types of women and you look at their history of dating, it would generally, most cases, show that they're usually attracted to the same type of men, which are the bad boys, like the entertainers, the basketball players, the men with a lot of money, scammers, drug dealers. These are the men that they're after, the Pookies and Ray Rays. But the good men that they can have now, the decent men of today, the ones that do everything right, so they have a 9 to 5 job or whatever, they earn their living the honest way. A lot of women today, a lot of modern women, are not interested in these men, right? These men are invisible to these women, right? These men are the boring, unattractive dusties, the ones that they don't want, the ugly men, some of them even say, right? Not realizing that those same men that you're calling these things, shaming them, could potentially be a part of the elect, And it says in the scriptures that the elect will be made famous, right? And these same men will be highly sought after, right? So in the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 19, it reads, "Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out. And I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame." So these women that are shaming these men, saying they're dusties, they're brokies, they're invisible, they're ugly, they're short, Hey, these same men are going to be made famous. They're going to be praised and given fame in the land where they've been put to shame. You see the scripture there. It's also in the book of Isaiah, right? So if we look in the book of Isaiah, chapter 32 and 2, it says, "And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind." So what's that wind? The wind, that can be along the lines of the famines, the pestilences, the death, the destruction, the dark days ahead, because there is a time coming where it's going to be bad out here, right? And when these women start to see how the Lord is shining upon these men that they once called dusties, called short, called, or were invisible to these modern women, these men are going to, these women are going to see how the Lord is smiling on these men, right? So I'll read that again. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 32, verse 2. It says, "And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadows of a great rock in a weary land." Right? That's what's coming to these men. These men are going to be like salvation to you, right? They're going to, like you're out in the desert and you're dying of thirst. They're going to be that drop of water, or if you're just in the hot sun all day, and they're going to be that shade. That's what the men of the Lord are going to be like when the Lord, blesses these men, wakes them up, right? This is what it's going to say. So these women are going to be flocking, just like how they are. These women want the famous men. They're going to be jumping over each other to get to these men of the Lord, right? There are a lot of single women out here that want to love on a man, want to be chosen and be married by a man, right? So there's going to be a lot of competition in those days, right? They're going to come knocking. That's why I labeled the lesson, they're getting ready to come knocking, or something to that effect, right? So it says, in the book of Psalms, chapter 110, verse 1, I'll start from the top. This is a psalm of David. It says, "The Lord Yahweh said unto my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool." Thine enemies, when we read the book of Micah, chapter 7, verse 10, it says, "Then she that is mine enemy shall see it." So these, unruly, out of order, proud, masculine women that can't be told nothing, that want to see the black man arrested and every disagreement when he don't do what she says, hiding the kids, not allowing the father to see his children. All of these things that make our women our enemies, right? It says in Micah 7 and 10, "Then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, Where is the Lord Yahweh thy power? Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets." Right? So back in the book of Psalms 110, verse 1, it says, "The Lord Yahweh said unto my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool." Right? You women are going to go through it, right? It says, "The Lord Yahweh shall send the rod of thy strength out of Zion." The Israelites. "Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies." Right? And that's all of our enemies. So that's going to be, the enemies that hate us and the enemies of our people as well. Right? So verse 3, which is the point, it says, "Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power." So when you see how the Lord is smiling on the men of the Lord, right, the elect, you see how the Lord is smiling down on them, these women are going to be, hey, take me. That's what it's going to be like, right? Psalms 110 and verse 3 says, "Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauties of holiness, from the womb of the morning, thou hast the dew of thy youth." Because you're gonna see some wild stuff that's really unexplainable. But if you have the understanding, right? And you'll probably still find some women that will fight tooth and nail because they're hard-headed to the end, and just claim that they don't need a man, right? But when the Lord turns up that heat to breaking point, then these women are gonna come running, right? And especially during the time of trouble, these women, it'll be so bad out there that these women ain't really gonna care like what your situation is at that point. As long as you choose them, that'll be the name of the game. Just choose me, right? And this is why the book of Isaiah, chapter 4, verse 1, says what it says. It says, and it reads, "And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach." Right? So it's saying like, just let us be called by your name. We'll cook our own food. We'll make our own clothing. We'll be wife number 998. Out of 1,000. We'll be happy. Just select us. Let us be under your umbrella. Let us be under that same umbrella. That's what it's going to be like, right? And that, when it says, "And in that day, 7 women," 7 means completion. So if one woman completes you, then one woman, is what completes you. But that's, there's more women on planet Earth than there is men, right? So if 7 means 1,000 women or 10,000 women, that's what it's going to be. You're going to be 9,999, you know what I mean? Or 10,000, right? So it says, "And in that day, 7 women," a completion, complete number of women, shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. And how do you get called by somebody else's name? Through marriage, right? So marriage, when you consummate a marriage, is when you sleep with somebody, right? That's how you consummate the marriage. You can go to the registration office, but if you don't consummate the marriage, it don't really count, right? So let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. The shame and the hell that these women are going to be going through, right? Because they will be going through the hell, right? So this is the book of 1 Timothy, right? 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. And it says, notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety, right? So a lot of these women are going to be delivered through childbearing. A lot of these women are going to be getting pregnant, right? Because there's going to be a lot of action Jackson happening. You know what I mean? To keep it nice and clean. But obviously, what's going to be happening, right? You can only get pregnant a specific way, right? So, I'm not going to keep this lesson going. I'm going to read one last scripture because I did mention this at the start of the lesson. That the Lord's, the words of the Lord, the Lord's word is faithful and true, right? So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 22, verse 6, and it reads, and he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true. And the Lord power of the holy prophets sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done. Right? So these things will shortly be done just as the Lord has written it out. Right? So you see how these women on these clips that I played, there's a lot of groaning, mourning about the fact that the whole dating game has changed, and they're struggling at the moment. You got women that ain't happy with the results that they're turning up, right? They're unsuccessful in seeking partnership, right? So these women are going to get to a point where when all hell breaks loose, they're going to need a man. When World War III breaks out and there's hardly any men left, they're going to need that companionship. They're going to be willing to do whatever it takes for them to find somebody, right? The competition is going to be stiff. So a lot of them ain't even going to really care that there's other women involved. You know what I mean? As long as they get picked, and you know what the scriptures say about, having a wife, like you gotta take care of them, man. You can't just be out here like dealing with them and then just casting them aside. You have responsibilities, right? So if you got the responsibility to be able to take care of 1,000 women, then hey, that's what it'll be. You have to take care of all of them, right? So if you look at Floyd Mayweather, Mayweather, just to give you an example, is a millionaire, right? He's got so much money and he's just got women all around him, that he can choose from, but he can take care of all of them, right? And that's what it's going to be like when the Lord, when the Lord start blessing his elect, his prophets, his men, these women going to be looked after too, because obviously the men have to do that. It's commanded of the men, right? So anyway, I pray that this lesson has been edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. I want to say peace and salutations to you, Akim, you brothers out there laboring, and shalom to you Israelite sisters, and also to you Israelites that are scattered across the four corners of the earth. You may look like these other nations, but your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's on to the next, Lord willing. Shalom.